TSC News here with some unfortunate news. If you haven't already heard, multiple WWE superstars were released on Friday, May 6, 2016, including Wade Barrett, King Barrett. A year after winning the King of the Ring, he is released. Now, he was already on his way out the door, chose not to renew his contract with WWE. They opted to release him a little bit early. He released a statement thanking WWE and the fans. He's going to take a much-needed break from pro wrestling, and we'll see what happens when he gets back in the ring. Santino Marella, who's now retired, was also released. Slight surprise, because I thought he'd be a guy that would have a job for life. He's a guy that could definitely do some network specials and be a GM or some type of authority figure. I mean, he's that great on the mic, but they have a lot of guys that can talk well on the mic. They have a lot of non-wrestlers at the moment. They could always restructure his deal and bring him back every now and then, but he was not used for a while, and yeah, he's out. Ryback is on his way out. He did not agree to terms on a new contract with WWE. He has a couple months left on his deal, from what I understand. Released a statement, which you can read on his Tumblr, where he essentially said, I think guys should get paid the same. I think that the guys that lose, the guys that put people over, should get just as much money as the people that win. And granted, a guy like John Cena does not have the same value as a guy like Heath Slater, for example. But I think the general premise of Ryback's statement was accurate, which is, there are guys that are missing out on some money, especially with the new network structure and the lack of pay-per-view bonuses and DVD royalties. And it'd be nice to take care of the guys. That's the general premise from what I understand. As far as everybody getting paid exactly the same, I don't know. But I don't know if it was meant to be taken that literal. Damien Sandow, who's a personal favorite of mine, was unfortunately released as well. Man, talk about a guy who worked his ass off, who got over, and much like Zack Ryder, he got over organically, and he got over with WWE's horrible creative. It wasn't even like he did a YouTube show or anything. No, he got over on WWE television, while on WWE television week to week with their own creative, and shoddy creative for that matter, that he made work with Miz, as Damien Mizdow. And what happens? He's punished for it. Essentially, he's taken off TV. He, had a couple appearances here and there. He actually had an appearance on Raw during the Battle Royal, got one of the bigger pops of the night, and then he got eliminated, and now he's released, which is just pathetic. The guy is so talented, worked so hard. I mean, I don't get it. The guy had a couple of great matches with John Cena a few years ago after he won Money in the Bank. He's awesome on the mic. Perhaps not the best wrestler or anything like that, but, he had great matches with one of your top guys. He's had some pretty good matches here and there. He clearly has a connection with the fans, and even if you can't necessarily understand it, if you're somebody backstage that goes, why do they like the Sandow guy? The bottom line is he connects with the crowd, and it's just unfortunate that they had to release him. I think it's ridiculous. I mean, you still have guys on the roster like, I don't know, or girls on the roster like Rosa Mendez, who's completely useless, and maybe they don't want to release her right away because she just had a baby a few months ago, which is understandable, but talk about a person that's offered no entertainment value whatsoever, whether she was on Total Divas, on Raw, SmackDown, whatever. Somehow still employed. But Damien Sandow, a guy who has gotten everything, the big push, the start and stop push, the mid-card deal, the barely being on TV and only appearing at main event superstars. Throughout this whole time, he's still managed to stay over and maintain a connection with the fans. And what do? They reward him by firing him. Quite sad. I know that they got to make cuts every now and then. I know WWE hasn't made cuts for a couple years now. So, yeah, they obviously had to get rid of some guys. But the release of Damien Sandow, to me, is just very questionable. I mean, you got guys like, and honestly, I'm not advocating these guys to be released, but I'm just saying. I mean, you got, Bo Dallas and, Adam Rose, who's currently under suspension, who might be on his way out anyway. And, you got a bunch of dudes at NXT that haven't even been on TV, that aren't experienced, that you're not using, that have been there for a couple of years now. I mean, Sawyer Fulton comes to mind. And, again, I'm not advocating anybody lose their jobs. I'm just saying, out of all the releases, Damien Sandow is pretty questionable. We had Alex Riley also get released. He's a guy to me that just, has been trying to cling on to this dream. 5 years ago, he looked to be one of the future stars of WWE. For whatever reason, he was, like a lot of guys, He had a nice push, and then they just stopped it, and it was very weird as to why. And he was never the best worker or anything, but he had a really nice look, and he was a guy that could talk really well, and even to this day still talked very well. But ended up in NXT the last few years, was actually a commentator for a little while, and I thought he did actually a really good job. So if it was his decision, I don't know if it was, but if it was his decision to leave commentary to try to progress his wrestling career, I got to say, with the benefit of hindsight, a really, really bad move on his part because he's now out of a job. But if you follow him on social media, he hasn't come off very well. Look, if he wants to support Donald Trump, whatever, but he's just come off really obnoxious, not just about politics, but about a lot of things. And you know what? Maybe he was trying to get fired. And he took some subtle digs at Roman Reigns. He's taking some subtle digs at other people in the main roster. He said it's useless to perform or to train at the Performance Center, Just a lot of questionable things that would make you think, hey, is this guy trying to quit or trying to get fired? And, well, whether he was or wasn't, he's now fired. Cameron, who also has seemed kind of, she's actually really nice on social media, but, you know, she seemed to kind of just, you know, be tweeting, Snapchatting things that maybe a WWE superstar is being utilized, you know, properly, normally wouldn't tweet out, you know, or Snapchat, you know, just stuff like a middle finger or, you know, when Ryback posted his statement the other day, she said, "Amen, brother," you know, as if to agree with him. And look, nothing wrong with that. You know, she seems like a nice girl. I liked her on Total Divas. I couldn't stand her at first because she was the only person out of that season of Tough Enough a few years ago that came out of there and ended up on the main roster. I couldn't believe it. I mean, she was never a great worker, never really a good worker, but I got to say, the last couple of years, she's really worked hard. She's really improved. I mean, if you do follow her on social media and you do watch Total Divas, she comes off as like a really nice person, you know, and just somebody that saw an opportunity and took advantage of it. And you know what? Who can really blame her? Nobody put a gun at WWE's head and said, hey, hire this inexperienced chick. But you know what? She made the most out of it. She worked day in, day out with a smile on her face. And, yeah, it's unfortunate because you got certain people on the roster, men and women, who, yeah, and mostly in the, you know, some people in the Performance Center, but other people currently on the main roster that, you know, don't exactly work the hardest, or at least on the surface, it doesn't come off like they're really trying to get better. And then you got Cameron, who, granted, you know, is never going to be a great worker. I mean, maybe she will be one day. Maybe she'll go on the Indies and tear it up, but you know, that's doubtful. But you at least got a girl that's, you know, working hard day in and day out and wants to be on TV. And you know, she really improved her look. She's always been a pretty girl, but recently she lost some weight and is really hitting the gym. And, you know, I thought physically she looked better than ever. And, you know, she's obviously gotten better in the ring. And, yeah, just unfortunate. You know, you work really hard. You bust your ass. You go to NXT and do all this stuff after you were on TV on Total Divas and became a reality star. And when you didn't have to, and, you know, you're rewarded by losing your job. Weird how life works. Hornswoggle, in a form of cruel irony, got released on the day of his 10-year anniversary at WWE. He was suspended for a wellness violation a little while ago and hasn't really been used on TV since. But look, the guy had 10 years. I mean, for a comedy figure, that's a lifetime in WWE. I suspect they'll eventually bring him back. And from what I understand, he is booked for the WrestlePro and Global Force Wrestling show here in my neck of the woods in New Jersey in a few weeks, so good for him. But, yeah, it's unfortunate, but he had a long run. El Torito, who's actually a great worker. Forget the size, forget the gimmick and everything. He's a great worker, man. He unfortunately was released as well, but hopefully he could tear it up in Mexico, maybe Lucha Underground. Who knows? I think that guy will land on his feet because he is really talented, and maybe he'll go somewhere where he's not stereotyped for his size and stuck in a silly bull gimmick. And lastly, my good friend and mentor, Zeb Coulter, a.k.a. Dutch Mantel, was unfortunately released. He's a guy that I've known for a number of years and became really good friends with and, you know, kept in contact with. I didn't talk to him much during his WWE run, his most recent one, just because he was always on the road. But, you know, we'd catch up every now and then. And since he's been home the last couple of years, we've really, you know, been chatting it up. And he's just a great guy, somebody that has not only mentored me, okay, and I'm not going to compare myself to these people, but he mentored the likes of Steve Austin and Undertaker and Kane and JBL. And if you want to go to more recent guys, a lot of the X Division guys in TNA, he was a very positive influence on guys like AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. And pretty much a lot of the great stuff you saw in TNA that wasn't garbage that Vince Russo wrote was Dutch Mantel. And I'm not just saying that because he told me this. I mean, I have a lot of mutual friends with Dutch. I've interviewed countless wrestlers that worked with Dutch in TNA and WWE. And, yeah, I'm telling you, man, most of the good stuff you saw in TNA when he was there was his idea. And he's a great guy, an asset to the business. I'm disappointed that they didn't move him to Orlando and have him work at the Performance Center. I really think he could have filled that void left by the death of Dusty Rhodes. He's a great promo guy. I mean, the guy had so much success, not only booking TNA from a creative standpoint, But from a financial standpoint, booking Puerto Rico's hot period in the early mid-2000s. I mean, the guy did a great job in Puerto Rico. I mean, if you want to check out his books, if you want to do some research on him booking IWA Puerto Rico, I mean, the guy did a phenomenal job in Puerto Rico, and his track record speaks for itself. I really wish they would have used him in some type of creative consultant capacity, but it is what it is. I am thankful that WWE did give him another chance, because the poor guy, if you don't know, he lost his granddaughter a few years ago. I don't remember if it was a drunk driver, but I think it was an escaped. It was some criminal, a guy with a criminal record, and he hit his 16-year-old granddaughter. She passed away, and it was just very, very, very sad. I mean, I remember talking to him the day that happened, and it was just, yeah. I mean, as you can understand, he'd be in a bad way for a number of months, but by the grace of God, or some type of higher power, he got a call. Said, hey, would you like to come to Nashville? He lives not too far from Nashville. Next thing you know, he was on Raw, Zeb Coulter, and the rest is history. So I'm really thankful for WWE to take care of him medically, help him out, and put him on TV and showcase his talent, because he's a guy that's, I think, to me, in the wrestling business is criminally underrated for his contributions to it. He's got a lot of respect from the boys for good reason. And, yeah, I'm just happy he got a chance to showcase his skills, although I am sad that, he is out of work at the moment, but we'll see what happens. I feel bad for all the people released, even Alex Riley. So, what can you say? I can't really spin this positively. Just it's unfortunate. You never want to see people lose their jobs. I've been in that situation before. I think a lot of us have, and yeah, it's never fun. So I wish them all the very best, and I hope you enjoyed this video update. If you did, please click the like button. Please share this with all your friends. And please stay tuned this weekend for our coverage of Canelo Alvarez versus Amir Khan. Until next time, everybody, as always, enjoy the matches. And to those that were released today, I hope you all land on your feet.